Have you ever wondered what sound your house would make if it remembered every secret ever buried inside its walls? I thought I was just moving into an old home, a temporary place, tucked along the edge of Kuala Kangsar, with sagging shutters and rain-stained walls that smelled of damp earth after the storm. People called it a colonial relic, a house that belonged to history more than to the present. The first night, I lay awake beside my husband, listening to the weight of silence pressing down on the rooms. And that's when I heard it, a laugh. Not sharp, not cruel, but soft, like the hushed giggle of someone cradling a secret. Came from the nursery upstairs. We don't have children. We've never had children. I remember sitting up, my skin prickling, thinking the sound must have slipped from a dream. But then I heard it again, this time closer, drawn out. A woman's laugh that carried a warmth that didn't belong here. I whispered my husband's name, but he was asleep, his breathing steady. The nursery door creaked shut on its own, and I realized the house wasn't empty. It had been waiting. Do you know what haunts a woman more? Silence, or the memory of a voice she can never hear again? My grandmother, Rahana, used to hum a lullaby whenever the monsoon winds rattled the shutters of her kampung home in Kedah. She said it was meant to keep restless spirits away from the windows. I never believed her. I thought it was just an old woman's way of softening the night. When I walked through the nursery of this house for the first time, the memory of her song returned to me. Uninvited, unshakable. The wallpaper was torn, the cot broken, yet I swore the air held the faint trace of that same melody. There was a framed photo on the mantel, left behind by someone long gone. A child I didn't know, smiling in black and white, clutching a wooden horse. No name, no date, just eyes too sharp, staring through the glass as if they recognized me. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. That night, when the laughter returned, I pressed my palms against my ears. And still beneath the giggle, I heard it. My grandmother's lullaby, echoing from lips that weren't hers. The house wasn't just remembering. It was borrowing. Have you ever seen footprints appear in front of you before anyone takes a step? That's what Inspector Faisal, a local officer, told me when I asked about the house's history. He lowered his voice, as if afraid the walls might overhear him. He said decades ago, a family vanished here overnight. Doors locked from the inside. No bodies ever found. Only a trail of wet, child-sized footprints leading from the nursery window to the garden, and then stopping at the well. I didn't believe him, until the rain came. On the third night, I walked down the corridor with a torchlight. The floorboards were slick with moisture, and when I lifted the beam, I saw them. Tiny prints, glistening, freshly pressed into the wood. They led to the nursery door, which was slightly ajar, rocking in rhythm with a faint, steady sound. Not laughter this time. A hum. A tune I couldn't place, yet it pulled at something deep in me, like a memory I'd forgotten to forget. I reached for the door, but before I touched it, the humming stopped, and from the other side, a voice whispered my name. The voice didn't belong to anyone I knew. What if the stories your elders whispered weren't warnings, but invitations? That question stayed with me after I spoke to Talk Biden Mariam, a midwife from a nearby kampung. She told me the house had once been a place where infants were delivered, but not all of them lived. She said the ones who didn't survive were buried beneath the floorboards, with charms of broken glass and nails to keep their spirits from rising. Her voice cracked when she said, "But spirits don't stay buried when their mothers never stopped calling for them." I wanted to dismiss her, but that night, as I walked past the nursery, the air smelled of iron and smoke. The cradle inside swayed gently, though no wind touched it. A faint rattling sound rose from beneath the planks, like beads rolling across wood. I knelt, pressing my ear to the floor. The noise grew louder, sharper, like fingernails scratching from underneath. Then, without warning, the boards buckled. Dust rose, and for the first time, I heard it clearly. Not laughter, not humming, but a chorus of infants crying in unison, muffled by the earth. I stumbled back, but before I could run, the cradle stopped rocking, and something inside it whispered, low and deliberate, in a child's voice. Stay. Have you ever heard a community fall silent? Not out of respect, but out of fear? That's what I walked into. The cafe on the corner, usually full of chatter, had only one conversation lingering in low tones. The night walk. An older man with trembling hands leaned across his table, whispering as though the walls themselves were listening. She didn't scream, he said, voice breaking. She just vanished between the lamp posts. The words carried more weight than gossip. Each sentence he spoke drew a heavier pause from those listening. No one corrected him. No one dared laugh. I noticed a younger woman at the back, staring at her untouched tea. She had been on that road once, she admitted softly, and she swore the air shifted around her like someone was breathing against her neck. She had never walked there again. The more I listened, the more I realized this wasn't one story. It was dozens. Each detail came from a different mouth, but the patterns overlapped in disturbing ways. People missing, footsteps following, objects found in places they didn't belong. And yet, despite the unease, nobody had ever gone to the police. Not one report, not one official record. Why? Because the town believed reporting it might only wake it up further. The room seemed to close in around me as I wondered, what could keep an entire community quiet while people continued to vanish? What if the silence of a town wasn't protection, but complicity? That question burned through me as I stepped away from the cafe. The road that everyone feared wasn't far. Gravel crunched under my shoes, and with every step, the lamps grew farther apart, shadows swallowing the spaces between them. Halfway down, I froze. A shoe lay in the ditch, mud-caked, its laces torn. It wasn't weathered by time. It was recent. I picked it up, and the damp leather still held the shape of a foot. That's when I saw it. A thin line carved into the dirt, running parallel to the road, as though something or someone had been dragged. The track cut deep, weaving toward the tree line where the darkness thickened. I crouched low, following the trail, heart hammering. My breath caught when I reached a broken bracelet snagged on the roots. It wasn't old. Its metal was still warm from the day's sun. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't legend. This was evidence, lying in plain sight, waiting for someone reckless enough to pick it up. And as the night air shifted around me, I couldn't shake the thought. If these pieces were left here to be found, then whoever left them might be watching me right now. Have you ever realized too late that the danger wasn't what was hidden, but what was protected? The trench was shallow, yet the silence surrounding it felt endless. I brushed away the dirt with shaking hands until the plastic gave way. The face staring back at me was pale, wax-like, and unmistakable. It belonged to the very man who'd once led the search parties. The man who told grieving families not to lose hope. All this time, he hadn't been searching, he had been burying. The laughter the wife heard in the Plantation house nursery. It wasn't random. It wasn't a ghost from centuries past. It was the echo of those silenced, bound to the land where they were hidden. Every laugh was a plea. Every sound was a warning. And now the truth was uncovered. But in a place where silence is survival, exposing it may cost more lives than it saves. The question remains, do you stay quiet, or do you tell the world? Fire if you want to hear more stories that uncover the truths people try to bury. Subscribe now to the Veil of Secret, because some secrets refuse to stay underground.